what we're setting up here is a challenge to the status quo, a challenge to authority in the art world. Why they're challenging is because it's not relevant to the voices and the needs and the concerns of everyday real people in this new modern world that's changed because of the Industrial Revolution. The old ways of the past don't apply. That includes art. So, artists are going to be anti-academy. So, if you were confused when you saw it on your objectives for this week, it said anti-academic art. Think of it as modern art for a modern world. Now, I'm going to give you some bullet points here that will help you as we progress through the rest of the semester. And when I use the phrase modern, think of these elements. Modern can mean a multifaceted artistic approach. Modern can mean modern artists seeking to capture the fleetingness of reality and existence. And modern can also be a concern with art aesthetics and production. What are you talking about, Miss Cortez? Multifaceted? Art doesn't have to be just painting. Art doesn't have to be just sculpture. And it doesn't even have to be specific materials, because the Academy puts this hierarchy of like watercolor is beneath oil paint, or wood carving is beneath clay, which is beneath marble. And modern artists are going to say, why do we have to limit ourselves to these, and why do we have to follow your hierarchy for them? Multifaceted artistic approach. Also, like the rule of big people, big paintings. Big important things, big paintings. Small people, insignificant things, little paintings. Artists are going to say, who decided that? Why do we have to follow that? Second bullet point, modern artists seeking to capture the fleeting reality of existence. As this world is fastly changing, the artists want to reflect that. It's not just looking to the past or painting of scenes that happened even 2 years ago. Instead, they want the now. They want something that looks exactly like when they look out the door and they see the world changing. It's fast, it's rapid. Why shouldn't art follow along just as fast? To the most fleeting elements like light. You know, you've been sitting in your house, in your room, day in, day out now for weeks. You understand how light changes, how the light in the morning is different from the light in the afternoon, which is different from the light in the evening. Those fleeting moments of light during just the day is what they're trying to capture. The final bullet point, artistic, concern with the art aesthetics or production. This kind of goes along the line of the hierarchy. Who decides what is good and who decides what is bad? Who decides that how I make my art is correct and that this way is wrong? Modern artists are going to push back on all levels. To set this up even further, I want to look at one group of artists who are pushing these boundaries in kind of a safe way. I don't mean to talk bad about them. They're playing it pretty crazy for the time, but looking back now, we're like, oh, it wasn't that crazy. Here we are. We're going to go to England, and we're looking at this group called the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, or for short, the PRB. And I've given you a definition here because they wrote a manifesto. In 1848, a group of 7 young men, all of them studying art at the English Royal Academy, decided, well, we've had enough of all this. And they wrote a manifesto and they proclaimed themselves to be the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. What is this manifesto? Okay, I'll read it. An art society, that should be an art society, not a art. Bear with me. An art society created by 7 rebellious English artists in London, dedicated to follow the medieval art and craft. We'll get to it. The PRV believed their art to be free of the artifice set by Raphael and without the restrictions of subject matter set by the neoclassic and romantic movements, the art academies. It's in the name. Pre-Raphael. Anti-Raphael. Mr. Perfect? Yes. The PRV is like, these art schools keep telling us about the Renaissance, especially Raphael, and how Raphael did it so well, and that we need to be just like Raphael. And you know what? I'm done. I don't want to do that. I want to paint other things. For the pre-Raphaelites, they say, why can't we paint scenes from Shakespeare's plays? Why can't we paint scenes that look more like before Raphael, pre-Raphael, from the Middle Ages, like the Gothic period? What makes you decide that that's not good? Well, who decided that Raphael was the best, and why do we have to follow him? A leader of this, or a voice in this movement, is this guy. His name is John Ruskin. He's an artist himself, very good watercolorist, and an art critic. And he was a promoter of the pre-Raphaelites, and he talked about how modern artists needed to be true to their people, their world, and that the past was true to them. And so by not painting our own passions, desires, and interests, we're doing a disservice to ourselves. Now you might be thinking, well, that's great. So what do the pre-Raphaelites do? This is when I say they're kind of playing it safe, in that by today's standards, this isn't very crazy. But at the time, it was like, oh my goodness. They do stained glass windows. The art academies don't teach that. That's something that a craftsman does. That's glass. That's with your hands and like lead. Oh, that's what the medievalists did. That's what they did in the Gothic period. Yeah, exactly. They're like, why can't we consider this fine art? It's gorgeous. And so they're going to redo it. This right here, it's a painting. It's a mythological scene. How is it crazy? How is it not neoclassic and romantic? Well, the choice of subject matter, which I'm not going to get into, but also, excuse me, I thought I was going to sneeze. I don't want to press stop on this 7 minutes in. But the way that it looks like a medieval tapestry. It looks like something not painted by Raphael, but something previous to Raphael. I know it. If this doesn't seem like it's fitting with you, here. We're looking at two paintings. Now, this one on your right. You're right. Let me look at my notes. The title of this. This is Ferdinand lured by Ariel. What? Ariel? The Little Mermaid? No, not that Ariel. This is from Shakespeare's play The Tempest. Now, as part of their English heritage, or I should say, post-Roman mythologies, Shakespeare. And they're like, yeah, Shakespeare's awesome. So why can't we paint stuff from Shakespeare's plays? It's not appropriate because it's not some ancient Roman story. It's not some ancient Greek myth. So here we're seeing them illustrating subject matter that had not been illustrated in fine art. A play by Shakespeare from the 1600s. Oh, wow. So, are you getting it? They're challenging the rules. Here, this is another one. This is more along the lines of modern in terms. Oh, sorry, excuse me. In terms of the scenery, so we're not looking to the ancient past. I'm going to zoom in on this because it always makes me laugh. This is titled Awakening Conscience. And so if we were alive at this time in the late 1840s, we would recognize this as inside of a nice middle class house, a parlor, a fancy living room. There's a standing parlor piano here. This young man's been playing it. Now you remember iconography, music, lust, uh-oh. And then we see this young woman. Now, if we were alive in the 1840s, we recognize her dress as being her underwear, her house clothes, her undergarments. And she's been sitting on this man's lap, and he's been playing some music. This is lust. This is passion. Oh, they don't even have their gloves on. Look at this. Ungloved. Oh, he's been touching her. His fingers have not been gloved. This is pre-quarantine, but still, the idea of skin on skin, lust. Now remember the name, Awakening Consciousness. She's like, oh crap, what have I been doing? I've been being a bad, naughty girl, skin on skin with this guy playing music. I need to stop doing this. She's seeing the light. See how she's looking out the window? And he's like, hey, baby, what's up? What's going on? How is this something that's pre-Raphaelite? It's not. But it is more along the lines of modern people, modern morals and attitude changes. I told you this rise in industry, it brings up a lot of new stuff and it floods into these congested parlors, all these manufactured wallpaper and these expensive machine-made carpets, and she probably is just caught up in all of this. Oh, here, a few more. It can also be very traditional in its religious images. Like here we see Christ on the cross, and here we see, I believe it's supposed to be Joan of Arc. No, it's not. Just a merciful knight. It's called the Merciful Knights, and it's a dude. But here we see Jesus coming down off of the cross to embrace him. We never see anything like that in Leonardo or Raphael or Michelangelo works. This is crazy, right? Here, this one, it looks like a tapestry, a medieval tapestry. Miss Cortez, I never saw one. Just take my word for it. Just take my word for it. With our next video, I'm going to show you our pre-Raphaelite. His name, Dante Gabriel Rossetti.